everything needs a process, right? Your operations, who's opening the door, who's cleaning the toilet, who's like all of these different things have to happen. And if something happens more than 3 times, it should probably have a process.
Welcome to the Clear Brand Academy podcast, where we take the mystery out of marketing and help you get more leads and sales with a clear brand and proven marketing tactics. I'm your host, Josh Ramsey, and today on the show we have Pete Mohr. Pete helps entrepreneurs transform their frustrations into freedoms by using a variety of frameworks that help them cut through the chaos and overwhelm of running a business. My goodness, being there. He's refined his tips, tools, and techniques within his own businesses over the past 28 years and loves sharing them so others can live the life they deserve as business leaders. Welcome to the show, Pete.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Josh. I'm excited.
Oh man, I am so excited about this conversation. Entrepreneurship is something very near and dear to me. And at Clearbrand, we believe that entrepreneurs change the world. And without entrepreneurs, without good marketing, businesses die and people suffer. But if there's no businesses, no food on the plate, there's no all sorts. So businesses make the world go round. Tell me how you got into entrepreneurship.
I want to just rewind a little bit because you said entrepreneurs change the world. And I think we have a really close connection there just on that first phrase, in that awesome. one of the reasons why I'm a business coach is because in sort of my grandiose things around what I want to accomplish in life and all of that sort of stuff, as you kind of reel it back into the big picture, it's my belief that entrepreneurs are the backbones of their communities. It's my belief that they're the ones that are the little league coaches. They're the ones that are the people that doing the donations for the churches and for the hospitals and for the new playground and for all that sort of stuff. They're the ones that are giving back their time, money, and energy to their communities because they want to see their communities survive and thrive. And from that perspective, it's my sort of mission to go out there and help as many entrepreneurs as I possibly can with simplifying entrepreneurship and what I do as a business coach, so that they in turn will give back to their community. Because it's my belief that if entrepreneurs have more time and more money, they will give back. And we've seen it time and time again, right, Josh, in almost every community around this globe, that it's the entrepreneurs that continuously build their communities. So in some small way, I feel that, as I coaching people all over in different areas, and the beauty of Zoom, and we can connect and all that sort of stuff now, that I can have some small impact in helping those entrepreneurs do better so they have more time and more money. And that way they'll give back to their communities. And so that's sort of a bigger type thing, but I loved how you started that off today.
Yeah, that's I think we're singing from the same song sheet. There's a quote that I love. If you want something done, give it to a busy person to do. And I think what you've said is so true, that it's the entrepreneurs that are getting involved in school runs and cake bakes and whatever it is out there. Yeah, it also reminds me of It's a Wonderful Life. Did you ever see that movie, It's a Wonderful Life?
I did.
Oh, man. And just all George entrepreneuring and giving back and kind of the quiet backbone, as you say. And what a world it would be if entrepreneurs disappeared.
Yeah.
And we were left with all the other things. I think there would be stuff around, but I think the backbone wouldn't be there. So amazing. You've got 28 years of experience. Have you always been an entrepreneur?
Always.
Or did you?
Always. I came out of university, worked for my dad's best friend for about 6 months. And he was a mentor to me because he's always been an entrepreneur as well too. But even before university, I started off. I had little small businesses in high school and through university and things like that. And then I bought my first franchise that 6 months after university. and started off with that.
Wow.
And it was bathroom renovations and stuff like that. And we had that for 15 years. And I had another
Wow.
business that we grew from sort of 30 customers. It was a cleaning company. We grew from 30 customers to 300 customers, and then we sold it. I became a business broker, helping people buy and sell businesses. And for the last 12 years, which is how I found one of the businesses we currently own, which is our shoe stores. And we still have shoetopia.ca here in Canada. We have a couple shoe stores, and I spend most of my time these days coaching other entrepreneurs. And my sort of framework around coaching entrepreneurs is that, you own your business and it shouldn't own you. And from that perspective, if you're always feeling that you're there propping up your business and the business is never propping up the life that you want to live, then that's the kind of customer that client that I work with. And, it's really, overwhelmed, frustrated, all this kind of stuff. And I couldn't do it. I mean, I personally have an issue, Josh, around coaches and stuff like that aren't actually operating businesses and some of the other stuff. They're trying to, or haven't in the past. I coach to being able to have a self-turning business, and I work about a day a week in my shoe stores, and the rest of the time it frees me up to do these kind of things, having conversations with great people like you, having conversations with my clients, which I dearly love. I mean, the thing, when you're doing something you really love, and I have a whole program called Love It or Leave It, but, when you're doing something you really love, it's really interesting because at the end of the day, you feel more energized. And so I'm asking you, the listener, if at the end of the day, do you feel worn out, drawn out, tired, and, mentally exhausted, you're probably not doing the right thing in your business. And you might want to look at how you can recraft that in order to, be working in your love it zone a little bit more. And that's something that I've really tried to do over the years, so that, I don't mind working. I like working because when I'm working, I'm doing what I want to do. So I don't find that work. I find that enjoyment.
Yeah. I think, running a business is complex and can be complicated. I know that some things can help simplify it, and I'm sure we'll get into that in a bit, but
for sure.
I think that simple kind of binary question, like, and obviously some days are hard and drudge and the grind.
For sure.
But, in the general, am I more energized at the end of the day? Am I buzzed up by what I'm doing? And yeah, I've been in both spaces, and I definitely prefer the buzzed up area. So, you mentioned these, you specifically talk about frustrations into freedom. What are the frustrations that you see currently, so that our listener, you out there that's listening right now, can go, yeah, this one's for me, this podcast's for me?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have I love frameworks. So I'm always creating frameworks and all sorts of different things. And, the main one that combats that is called the 5P framework. And the 5P framework revolves around starting and clearly identifying what your promise is, and then aligning your products or services, if you're a service-based business, your process and your people to that promise, so that you can have the right amount of profit. So when we reel it back to what are the frustrations, well, there's several, because the profit really, you can recategorize. And, it's not just the dollars, it's the time freedom. So time freedom is one big one that most of my clients are wanting. And from that perspective, most of my clients aren't startups. So usually been at it for a few years, 3 to 5 years, sometimes 10. And they're kind of looking back and they're saying, I got into business because I had these visions of freedom, whatever they are, they're unique to that particular person. Maybe I want to travel more. Maybe I want to spend more time with my kids. Maybe I want to, have enough money that I can have 3 different things on the go and have other people help me out and run them. It doesn't matter what those freedoms are that you're looking for. But what I encourage any of our listeners here today to think about is to take yourself a step back to when you started your business and think about why you started your business. Was it because it's almost always around I want more freedom of something, right? And from that perspective, it's usually time, wealth, relationship, purpose, all those different things that make up who you are. And you may not have been able to find that when you worked for somebody else. So you said, I'm going to start my own thing. But if you're not enjoying those things, then why have your own business? Because there's a lot of risks, as you know, Josh, right? There's a lot of risks. There's a lot of those days. There's a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of, problems around your fourth P, which is the people, your ideal clients, a lot of issues around clients, a lot of issues around your teammates, a lot of issues around your suppliers that you have to deal with, where if you weren't a business owner, that would maybe still be your problem if you were assigned to that accountability. But at the same time, it's not your overall problem. So I just encourage anybody listening here today to go back every now and then and just kind of reassess. Is business ownership for me? Am I getting the freedoms that I want out of my business? And if you aren't, there's two options. One, fix your business so that you are. Two, leave your business. Sell it, leave it, close it, and go work for someone else. And that's okay too, because business ownership isn't for everyone. But I can tell you, after 28 years, it certainly is for me. I consider myself virtually unemployable. So, it's been a great life. And for those that enjoy it, how can you make it even better? And that's the thing that I love to do with my clients.
Yeah, that rings true, eh? Making space for the freedom that you want. I was chatting with an entrepreneur recently who's he's got a successful business, a team of about 60. And his reason for starting a business was that he wanted to control as much as possible. So there are risks. And what I think is also interesting about the entrepreneurial kind of ride is that at least you know what those risks are, right? As an employee, there's a ceiling of knowledge that you have about what's going on, and you kind of can't get behind unless you kind of that top C-suite or whatever it is. You might not actually know what's written on the wall. Okay, so that aside, you got this great framework, your promise, product, process, people, and profit. So I think let's dig into that. So we've kind of framed this question. You listening, you're an entrepreneur, and I'm assuming that this can also be applied if you're in a business and you can take to someone and say, "Hey, I've been thinking about how we do things here, and I've got these thoughts." So definitely tune in and keep attentive here as we unpack this. Has it got a name? The 5 Ps? Is there
I literally call it the 5 Ps to freedom.
5 Ps to freedom. I like it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how do we apply it? What's the application here?
Well, really, it all starts, and I mean, Josh, you're a marketer. You understand the importance of clarity in your message and all of that kind of stuff. And it really starts with the clarity of the promise. And, people will say, isn't the promise the mission? Well, or vision or whatever. I kind of look personally at mission and vision being sort of internal and promise being external. So that's kind of, it's your customer facing, right? So the idea around a promise, as I like to think of it, is understand what your client's problem is. If you're going to develop it really quickly in 2 minutes, what's your client's problem? How do you uniquely overcome it? And what does their life look like after they use your goods or services or your product, as I put it? But from that perspective, everybody buys a better life, Josh. So you have to show them in your promise.
Yeah, I love that. Everybody buys a better life. That's what they're buying. Yeah, whether it's shoes, whether it's pain medication, you're buying a better life. Yeah,
or whether it's a steak for supper. You're buying a better life.
That's a really simple way of simplifying what could be something quite complex. So cool. Yeah, keep going. Well,
yeah, the business is called Simplifying Entrepreneurship.
Right on. Let's do it.
We're always trying. That's why I love frameworks, right? It's like, what frameworks can I take to get, and the reason I create these things is because I have a crazy mind and I got all kinds of stuff going around in there, and I need to use these frameworks for myself. And then I find all these other clients. It's like, so I just pull them in every now and then and say, hey, we can use this framework. We can use this framework, because entrepreneurs typically are these visionary type people that have a million ideas and they roll around in their heads and they need to get them out into some sort of framework that they can either act upon or have someone else in their team act upon, right? So from that perspective, it's like we take this framework for the promise, and it's like, understand that. And once you have that, once you can see with clarity the transition from where they are, the pain that they have, your goods and services, to their better life, then they'll probably buy, right? So what happens next? Well, next, it's the alignment of those three middle P's, which is ultimately important, right? And they are your product, your process, and your people. And from that perspective, I'm finding over the last couple of years, in particular with all of the changes that have gone on, that either the promise is outdated or these three middle P's are not aligned anymore. You know, the promise here's a catchy one. A lot of entrepreneurs say, well, we've always done it that way. That's a little bit of a scary phrase.
Yeah.
Especially if you haven't taken the time to go back. In a world of change. Yeah. You know? If you catch yourself saying we've always done it that way, is it still relevant? Is it still what your clients want? So, we look at that and we take that into the product side of things. And I like to, I'm obviously trimming this down quite a bit, but I like to take the product side of things and really just go through, it's as we're recording this, it's the new year, and you kind of look at different things in different ways, whether it be a new year, a new quarter, whatever the case is. But, look at your allotment of products and services and say, do all of these align with our current promise? And if they don't, they got to go. So use that sort of principle where you're getting rid of 10% of your products and services because they're just no longer relevant, or they're no longer profitable, or they're, for whatever reason. You're honing your middle 80% and making them even better. And here's the job. You're the entrepreneur, you're the business owner. So your job is to be always looking for the new things that are coming in, right? So that next 10%, what are we going to test? What are we going to try? What are we going to see if it can become that middle part, that middle 80% down the road? So important to be always looking in the future for that next set of profits or products so that you can create more profit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you've kind of got this cadence with what's working, but without getting complacent about what's working and looking for what will need to work and what is no longer working, kind of chopping off the tail and extending the head as we keep cruising along. Okay, great.
It makes sense, Josh, but people don't do it.
Well, yeah, and I think that running a business is stressful, and you got 1,000 things on your list, and there's urgent, important, and you're struggling to prioritize. And,
have you ever? Yeah. Have you ever gone into a restaurant? I just thought of this. Have you ever gone into a restaurant and opened about a 20-page menu, as opposed to a restaurant that had like one page of their items? And those people just have never got rid of the stuff that doesn't sell.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually, I had dinner.
What's your menu
last night?
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think there's both. There's like the menu keeps growing and you're not culling, and the other one is and it's great that you mentioned this promise, like what it is that you do. So I was at a themed restaurant, and all the menu items were named after bands. It's like, it's great. Let's have a Fleetwood Mac, but what is in this friggin' sandwich? Just tell me what I'm buying. So just reminded me of that. Okay, cool. Gotcha. So we're refining our product. We got 80% that's really working for us, 10% that we're chopping off, 10% that we're bringing on, looking into the future. Is that about right? And then we gotta do this with a certain process. Yeah?
Yeah, for sure. The product side of things, that 10 and 10, I mean, it could be 20 and 20. It's sort of just, pick your stuff. But the idea is make sure that you are getting rid of some, like the menu we just talked about, and you were bringing in some new ones to test and try. Yeah, the process. Well, we could spend an entire day talking about process. I mean, here's what I'd like to, because I'm sure you've talked a fair bit about process in the past. And here's how I'd like to frame up process. Think about all of the key areas of your business. Your human resources, your hiring, your firing, your marketing, Like everything needs a process, right? Your operations, who's opening the door, who's cleaning the toilet, who's like all of these different things have to happen. And if something happens more than 3 times, it should probably have a process, right? And what happens and what I find with a lot of my clients is that they find they're always making decisions for other people. And here's a line I hear a lot. Why don't they just know how to do that? They should know how to do that. They've been here for 3 years. And if you're thinking, and I'm talking to you, the listener, if you're thinking that that pops up in your head a lot, it's probably because you don't have the right process in place. So, it's not like we want to have a manual that's 8 feet tall in our business. But, from that perspective, people need to have full understanding of what the promise is. So, and that's why we start with promise, because most decisions, if everybody on your team understands with full clarity what the promise is, they can make decisions based on that, even if there is no process.
Yeah.
So, from that side of things, it's like write out. And here's something that we have been doing, and I've been working a lot of clients with, is that process shouldn't just be in a manual. Process should be, people absorb information in different ways, right, Josh? They read, they see, they hear. So think about all of the process. Sometimes I love a tool called Loom. I use Loom all the time.
I literally was just going to say that. I was looking for a segue into some practical tools, and Loom was top of the list. Tell me why you love Loom.
I love Loom. I mean, yeah. I'm a talker, first of all, not a typer. I'm a talker, not a typer. So what do? I open up Loom, and I talk 90% of my emails. I love that, and so I don't have to spend out time. And the beauty of Loom, so you can share your screen with Loom, and so if it's a digital process where it's computer oriented, it's the way to go. Why do I want to read this great big long 3-page thing on step-by-step process when I can just watch the 1-minute video? So from that perspective, think about that. Or if I like to hear it, I can hear it too, or I can hear it while I'm doing it, even though the video's there, and go back to the video when I want to. All of these different things. But from a Loom perspective, it's just such a fantastic tool that really propels learning in a different way. And the best thing I like about Loom, outside of the sort of procedure side of things and process side of things, is that it takes your tone. So when you're typing an email to someone,
very difficult.
Sometimes tone gets misconstrued. And
just in case anyone's playing catch up, Loom is you can go to loom.com, and it is a service that you can use that turns on your webcam and your camera and captures your screen, and you can basically give instructions. Just wanted to make sure that in case anyone was just a little bit outside of the room, come down back into the room and keep going, Pete. I'm loving this. Loom.
So Loom is absolutely one of the core staple tools in our toolbox for process, because it allows you to share all this stuff. So think about how you're creating the process, the step-by-step procedures, so that people can follow them without your involvement, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because here's the thing, entrepreneurs, busy people, and if they're, one of my sort of key sort of phrases that I use a lot is that decisions should be made at the lowest possible level of every organization. So decisions should be made at the lowest possible level of every organization. Why?
Yeah.
Well, because your client doesn't want to have to ask a question, and then it goes back up 3 levels of command and comes back down 4 days later and all of this kind of stuff. Your client doesn't want that. That's not good customer service. Your team doesn't want it. They want to feel as though they're capable and available and accountable and all of that stuff to make the decision. They don't want to feel as though they have to ask all the time. And you want your time back, right? So from that perspective, it comes the process side of things, whether it's operations, whether it's marketing, whether it's human resources, all of these different things has to be clearly outlined in one of these formats, whether it's Loom or in the book, or preferably both, and so that people can absorb it in the way they want to. And people procrastinate process, Josh, because they say, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's too big a chore," and they say,
I
"Well,
don't
where
have
do
the
we
time.
start?" Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And they say, "Well, where do we start?" And my comment is, you start with the low hanging fruit. Like, what's the easiest thing? And start.
Yeah.
Like
Start with the next process. What's the next process you got to teach someone how to do, and just create a little video to do that you could use next time. Yeah.
And so, the video thing changes for a lot of people because people think about creating this big ass manual, excuse my language, but it's like, I don't want to do that. But when you flip it into being able to just press record and go, it's easy. So does it need to be professional? Does it need to be all shiny? No, it doesn't. It just needs to be out there so people can absorb it.
Yeah. This is it's an internal document. Document? It's a video. What I also love is you can play back Loom at 1.5, 1.7, so you save time. And then the fact that they've gamified, they're like, you just saved a meeting. You know.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we start, linking to our Loom commission, affiliate commission.
Yeah, right.
Is there anything else on process there? I mean, personally, one of the other ones I love is Grammarly snippets. I know a lot of companies are using Grammarly. So just if you are in a text or in a LinkedIn chat or something like that, and you've got a response that you want to send out. But now that you're saying it, I feel like, why don't I just send a Loom video as a LinkedIn message, as an outreach, as a something? It's much more personalized anyway, and it gets that tone across. Yeah. Yeah.
All of my I go through all my proposals. Like if I'm talking to somebody and they're interested in coaching, I just literally send them a Loom, and it's more personal. People always say to me, they're like, "Wow, I love that little video you sent." Well, anyone here listening can do the same thing. It's very easy. It's quick to get on, quick to learn, user friendly. Yeah. It's a great tool.
Who knew we were gonna dive deep into Loom? Because I'm looking at, I'm thinking of your 5 Ps, using a Loom to get across your promise, to explain your product. I mean, that's also great sales collateral. You can repurpose it, all sorts. Okay, great. Where do you want to go?
People is the next one.
Awesome.
And you asked, what are some of the frustrations? Well, people typically are the biggest frustration for every business owner. And here's
in business, in life, in general. I mean, I got 2 kids under 2. Those 2 people can be very frustrating too. So
for sure. So from that side of things, here's the most interesting thing is that people can also be the most freeing thing that you have in your organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so it's all how you set it up and look at it in perspective. And, I like to say it's just as good to attract the right people as it is to repel the wrong ones. Right. So I'm okay with repelling the wrong people. And perfectly good with it because it means less frustration for me.
Yeah.
And when I look at people, I break it down into 3 different components. Your ideal client, which I know as a marketer you know and have talked all about, so we won't talk too much about that. But your ideal client is so important. Your ideal teammates. And think about the structure of your ideal client, right? Like, who are they, their persona, all that other stuff. Have you ever mapped that onto your ideal teammates? Right?
Yeah.
Have you ever mapped that onto who we want as part of our business, serving our clients, living our promise, so that we can give a less frustrating experience to everybody involved in our sphere of influence? Most people haven't.
Yeah, great reminder, for sure.
Yeah. So here's the quick tool. Who is the best ever employee, teammate that you've ever had? You know their name, him or her. You already know their name. It's like, this is the best person I've ever worked with. If I could hire 100 of them, I would. Write down all the qualities, the cultural fits, all of the capabilities, all of the different things on why that person is the best person, and you would hire 100 of them. On the other side, this person just didn't work. Why? Why didn't they work? Write that list down too. And when you go to hire the next people that are going to be part of your team, this gives you everything you need to market your position. Because just like we're marketing for ideal clients, we need to market for ideal teammates, right? They have to be in alignment with the promise. They have to provide all these great things like Joan did because she was the best ever, and not like Mike did because he was the worst ever, right? And
no
so
offense to Mike's out there.
Yeah.
Also, caveat: don't just hire if the name is Joan. We can't guarantee any. Yeah, I love that. I love that.
I like to use the names, whatever those names are, because like everybody listening knows who that person is. So get it jumps really to mind, vivid just in your head, that. Right? Yeah.
Okay, I've got a burning question in my mind. Where is the line between helping someone become a Joan? I think was the example. Can we turn Mikes into Joans? Do we need to just say we're not a personal development organization, we're here to do a job? Let me stop babbling. Where's the line between hiring right and then kind of turning your members into your ideal teammate? Is there a line?
Well, there is, because not everybody can be, right? So I've got another framework that I've created around your ideal teammate, really. It's called, anyway, it's got this framework around that. And it's how we measure when we interview people. It's also how we measure later on down the road. But it's around having the right capacity to do the job. So that means what you kind of are you capable of doing it now? And the next part really revolves around, can you actually do the job in the future? Like, do I feel that you can actually grow into this position, right? And I rate this, 1 to 5. What's the rating? Like, can you grow? And then we look at culture and we look at community and we look at a few other things as well. But really, it's like, what can you do now for your current job position? And the next piece is, can you grow into the best ever type thing? And so that's, again, some of that's a bit of a gut feel, and some of it's about, really, can you actually do the work that we're asking you to do? Well, that's a working interview and show me what you can do and all that sort of stuff. The next step is, do I think you're the right cultural fit, and do you have the capability of growing into what we think down the road? So from that perspective, yeah, people can be trained, people can be fit in, and sometimes if you just don't fit in culturally, it's really hard to, at least in smaller business, it's really hard to find that they're going to grow within the business if the cultural fit isn't there. So, I know some of the larger organizations will say, well, the cultural fit isn't as important. I just need to get them done for their particular job. But in smaller business, like I'll say 50 people and under, I think the cultural fit is a really big piece. And so, you have to be in alignment. You have to get along with the other people on your team and all that other stuff too. And you have to be able to do the job. Those are the most important things. But the next thing we look at is like, can you do even more? And do I have the belief and trust and feeling and all that other stuff around even more, right?
Yeah. And added into that, the uncertainty of where the role will go in relation to the new products coming in relation to the changing, so a lot of uncertainty there.
Gotcha.
Is there a I'm thinking about someone I knew who could get it done, could grow, but one of the issues was motivation. Required a lot of motivation, kind of rallying to the cause time and again. I mean, how much of that is too much? Is some of that expected? What are your thoughts there?
That's the cultural fit. Are you, like, we own some shoe stores. In retail, there's generally a relatively high turnover, right? And in our business, we have a 75% retention ratio year after year. We have had many people work with us for 7, 8 years, 5 years. I mean, I've owned the business for 12. I've had many clients or many team members leave and come back, and then when they come back, they're even more, dedicated to the business. So from that perspective, think about, your cultural fit in that sort of stuff, and think about, do these people. So I like to use sort of our critical actions and key characteristics, Josh, and I know that sort of framework around that, but are we aligning to that, and are they living up to that? And from that perspective, we hire on that. We ask the questions on that sort of stuff. And we actually, when we sit down and have their employee reviews, we talk about those things. Because if they aren't the right fit for our business. It's like we produce, like that's what we do. And, we have fun doing it, but at the same time, we want to win, and we want to, move ahead, and we want to provide excellent service and all of that other stuff with regards to our promise. So that's where I was saying it's okay to repel the wrong fits, because if they aren't part of that in the alignment of your business, then they aren't, and they probably have to leave.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. So we get these right, and then we just check our bank balance, and the final P just totally taken care of.
There's one more. There's one more framework in the people, and it's and this is one people overlook too. Your ideal supplier, right? So any of your outsourced suppliers, anybody else who's a virtual VA. In my case with shoe stores, maybe it's some of the brands we use. For some, an electrician, it might be their supplier for all their lighting products. Whatever the case is, are those suppliers in alignment with your promise? And if they aren't, you need to assess that. So we have basically a scorecard for all of these. We have scorecards for our people. We have scorecards for our clients. We have scorecards for our team members, and we have scorecards for our suppliers, because every small improvement, it's like compound interest. Every small improvement can make a big difference in the end to allow you to have the fifth B, more profit, right?
Yeah, I love that. Really thinking about the full chain there. I try to get a project done, and I ventured into the world of Fiverr, and I will not be venturing back into the world of Fiverr. And if I'd had I might, but for projects that I work on, but it wasn't a Clear Brand aligned projects before I joined the team here. But yeah, goodness, more time managing the supplier than actually just benefiting from what I'm buying from them. So having a scorecard there would have really helped. Would have been great if they just posted their own scorecard. But that is what it is. Okay, great. So we're through the people, and now do we just look in the bank and the big profits there, and it's off to the races, freedom for all, or not yet?
Well, I mean, ultimately, the alignment of these middle P's to your promise takes time, right, Josh? Like, it's not like the switch turns on for profit. I mean, let's be realistic. It's all of these things we've talked about: creating the process, finding the right people, hiring the right people, finding the right clients, finding the right suppliers. All of these different things, all of the process, all of your product alignment, even developing your promise and reassigning that and recrafting it. All of these things take time. So profit isn't immediate when you just go through this little exercise. But again, this is a process, right? And processes take time, like we said. So from that perspective, you need to start with some of these things and start building this, because once this thing is running and once this thing is aligned and you've made those small incremental changes every week, every quarter, every year, then the profit does come. Right? And when the profit comes, it's not just dollars, Josh. I mean, it's what those dollars can buy you, right? This is the freedom piece, right? When we turn the frustrations of being involved in every decision, having to open the door every day, having to clean the toilet, having to answer the sales call, having to do every single thing in your business, to the point where you're now having a beautifully running accountable business where people are making decisions with the promise in mind every day, in and out. And you're really, I call it turning yourself from operator to owner. And when you're in the owner's seat of your business and you're looking down and you're saying, hey, listen, this thing is starting to really hum for me and the profit's starting to come in, the freedom then in the profit side of thing becomes, well, what do I want to do with it? And that's a awesome choice to be able to make. Do I want to invest it? Do I want to buy a triplex? Do I want to go to a trip in Africa for 3 weeks? Do I want to buy a place in the Bahamas? Do I want to buy another business? I mean, it doesn't matter what those things are. It allows you to dream. Profit allows you to dream. And taking it back to sort of at the beginning of the conversation, why did you get into business? You got into business because you wanted the freedom to dream and make those dreams a reality. And that's what profit can do for you if you have your business set up in the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing to have those call them profit dreams or whatever it is, as opposed to a number. Because, I mean, I remember a certain time when I was looking for a number goal, and hitting that number goal was nothing. It didn't change one iota of my emotional state. It didn't change, and yeah, I think keeping that profit dream alive is an important one. Nice to end up back where we were, kind of thinking about the freedom that businesses can bring when they're set up well. Really impacted by that idea of choosing your team members. Not only your clients and finding the right clients, but finding the right team. Great conversation. Really enjoyed it, Pete.
Thanks, man.
Is there anything that I've missed out on? Anything you want to throw back in that just remind us of? Been a wonderful circle.
So I've been, created the 5P framework a while back, and I'll just give you a little, because this might set us up to have another conversation down the road. And,
sure.
The framework that I'm working on these days that I'm saying around, I've just changed the name of my podcast to the Business Owner Breakthrough. And from that side of things, I'm playing around with this idea of creating your or working to earn as business owners your MBO. And MBO is your mastery of business ownership. And under your mastery of business ownership, you have your CPA. And most people think of a CPA as a certified professional accountant or chartered professional accountant or whatever. But I'm changing that, because the MBO isn't a real designation, it's just my own. And the CPA isn't a real designation, it's just my own. But the CPA is. And think about this, and I'm talking to the listeners here. Think about this year. As you're thinking about what you want to accomplish this year, in your business, try to earn your CPA. And CPA stands for better communication, better process, and more accountability. Okay? So what do you want to do as the leader? You want to be a better communicator. You want to have better process in your business, and you want to have a better assignment of accountability. And accountability doesn't mean just giving somebody a title. It means actually handing over accountability so they can make the decision. And if you work on those three things this year, you're going to have a better life, I guarantee you. And you can use the 5 Ps to help you with that.
Sounds great. Sounds like we've got to earmark some more time to unpack that. Where can people go to find out more about you, get in touch with you, have a chat about their businesses?
Yeah, best way is just to type in Simplifying Entrepreneurship. I know it's a long one, but Simplifying Entrepreneurship, and you will find me and you will find my business, but it's simplifyingentrepreneurship.com. And I hang out mostly on LinkedIn at Pete Mohr, Mohr.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to go and connect with you on LinkedIn right now, and look forward to getting a Loom from you about something of import.
Awesome. I will absolutely respond.
Cool. Cheers, man. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Josh. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Clear Brand Academy podcast, where we take the mystery out of marketing and help you get more leads and sales with a clear brand and proven marketing tactics. If you liked this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to outsource your marketing to our team, go to clearbrand.com.